And the wealthiest neighborhood in Chicago, Zainab. And the Prophet ﷺ wants to break the class divide, and he wants to make people understand that people should be able to get married regardless of their economic differences or social differences. So he recommends that Zainab and Zayd get married. And Zainab doesn't think it's a good idea. She doesn't think it's a good idea. And Zayd is also kind of reluctant, like, I don't think she's going to like me very much because I'm supposed to be qawwamuna ala nisa, like I'm supposed to be the head of the household, the caretaker, I'm the Amir of the house, and she's going to say, you're the Amir of my house? Like, she's already up here, I'm already down here. There's no way I'll have any sort of authority over her ever. So this is going to be a very difficult situation that I'm going to be put in. So he's reluctant about it. But the Prophet ﷺ insists, right? And when the Prophet ﷺ insists, out of love of the Prophet ﷺ, it's not a religious instruction. He doesn't say, Allah and his messenger have commanded you to engage. No. It's not that. As we will see when we look at the historical reports. He's just strongly insisting. But in the end, it's the Prophet ﷺ, isn't it? Like, if he's insisting, it's going to be hard to say no. There are some Sahaba who have stronger will than others. The Prophet ﷺ asked one young man to sell him his donkey. He said no. No, I'm not going to sell it to you. The Prophet is asking you to buy his donkey. No, you can't have it. Right? He wouldn't give it to him. Well, that's okay. Right? So, but in the case of Zayd and Zainab, they cave. They're like, okay, fine, we'll get married. So they get married. Now, when they get married, it's just not working out. There's just too much of a difference between them. We don't know the inside story. The reason we don't know the inside story is because it's none of our business. That's why we don't know the story. I could tell you she was high class, he was from, slave clan. That's why she just couldn't handle his lower class status, or, she couldn't deal with living in that kind of housing. I could make all that up. It might be entertaining for you, but is that history? No. You know why? Because we don't know. You know why we don't know? Because no one knows what happens between a husband and a wife, except who? The husband and the wife. We don't know. All we know is it wasn't working out. That much we know. Why wasn't it working out? अच्छा और बताएं, कुछ तो पता होगा आपको. Do you think this is what happened? Do you think that is speculation into people's personal lives? Is that something that Islam prohibits or speaks out against? Speculation into people's personal lives? But you know what? For some reason, when it comes to the best people, the Sahaba, we're very comfortable with our speculation. Like, what must have happened? Why do you need to know what must have happened? What are you gonna make a char out of that? What are you gonna get out of that? If this was very important for your guidance to know exactly what went down, Allah would have recorded it. The Prophet would have told us about it. Allah and his messenger's job is to communicate guidance. If they didn't do so, there's a reason. There's a reason. All you need to know is it wasn't working. That's all you need to know. And every other detail, just put a big none of my business sticker on your notes. Like, just look at that every day. Okay? There's a nosiness that Muslims suffer from. And they bring that nosy, they're already nosy in their own personal lives. Right? There's already nosy. So what are you doing here? How long are you here? Like, I mean, people get weird around me. That's okay. I'm used to it. I ran into somebody in the elevator. I was in another country. You're here? My first impulse was to say no. Like, what's he gonna do if I say no? I said, yes, I am. Oh, what are you doing here? Are you in this hotel? Now I'm getting uncomfortable. What floor are you on? How long are you here? You're gonna be here tomorrow? You come here every day? Is this where you have breakfast? Oh, okay. So, like, what are you gonna do this evening? Do I know you? Right? Just wanting to know. That's okay. People get curious. I feel like people think people that have a public profile or public access, like public property also. And so that's okay. But it's not just about celebrities. You go to somebody's house and like, oh, so tell me about your shoe size. Tell me about your fingerprints. Like, they want to get all this information out of you. And we think it's okay, even within the study of our religion. It's not. It's not. So I'll stick to the facts. The facts are the marriage wasn't working. Zayd comes to the Prophet ﷺ and says, it's not working. We're not compatible. How they're not compatible? Again, none of our business. The Prophet ﷺ now feels reluctant to tell him get divorced. Why? Because whose recommendation was it? The Prophet's recommendation. And of course, Zainab is from a high family. And the sociological reality, we don't know this for a fact, but there are some things we can say with some degree of confidence. When you have a high profile family, when you have a higher tribe or, a prime minister or, somebody who's, very famous or whoever, right? An elder. When there's a divorce in that family, it's a much bigger impact. It's not just two people got divorced. Everybody's talking about it. It can make its way into the news. It can make its way into the tabloids. It can affect the political situation, because they're a high tribe. Celebrities, everything about their personal life becomes like sensational, right? So it's not like everyday people having a relationship problem. This becomes a much bigger problem when it's high profile, right? And it's much more looked down upon. That's why, royal princes and princesses, et cetera, they get married, but they don't get divorced. And even if they do all kinds of stuff, but they don't get divorced because it's a bad look, right? So she's from a high family. And now Zayd is insisting that he wants to get divorced. This is going to be a very bad look for her and her clan and her tribe. On top of that, it's the Prophet ﷺ who recommended this marriage. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling him, don't do it yet. Don't do it. Amsik alayka zawjak. Just don't divorce her. Now there are multiple opinions here, some of them very flimsy, very weak, but the strongest one that I can find, that I think is the most convincing, and we'll look at the evidences tomorrow, inshallah, is that Allah at one point revealed to the Prophet ﷺ that he's going to be marrying Zainab. Allah revealed it to him while she was already married to Zayd. Allah revealed to him that she's going to be marrying him. Now Zayd's coming along and telling him that he's having trouble in the marriage. He wants a divorce. But the Prophet ﷺ, he could have done two things. He could have just said to to him, well, Allah revealed to me that I'm going to marry your current wife. So why don't you just divorce her and let's just get this over with and I'll just marry her. Because Allah has revealed that to me already. So why delay? Right? But what does he do? He says, keep your wife, have taqwa of Allah, do the best you can, basically, stay in the marriage. The question then is, if he knew that he's going to marry her, why is he telling him to stay in that marriage? Again, we don't know why exactly because Allah didn't say. Allah just said that he was hiding the true intent, meaning the true intent was Allah has revealed to him that this marriage is going to happen. He didn't want to say. Why? What I can think of, what we can speculate. What we can speculate reasonably is if the Prophet ﷺ says, well, divorce her because Allah has instructed me to marry her, everybody around is going to say, oh, how convenient. You told your son to divorce his wife because Allah told you to marry his wife? Huh. So he knows that there are munafiqun that take any opportunity and they're going to blow this out of proportion. And it's going to demoralize the Muslims. And it's going to be even more humiliating for Zainab and for Zayd and for him and for their families, etc., etc., etc. Like this is going to be a huge problem. So even if Allah has already decreed that I'm going to marry her, when that happens, but I shouldn't make it look like I had a hand in expediting that. I should just tell him, just do whatever you can, stay with your wife. So it shouldn't look like it came from me. It shouldn't look like that. Right? Now, the interesting thing is Allah told Zayd radiallahu anhu, don't divorce her. Amsik alayka zawjak. Explicit words in the Quran. Hold on to your wife. Who's instructing here? Who's giving the instruction? The Prophet. The Quran, this surah says, whenever Allah and His Messenger give an instruction, it is not up to a believer to have any choice. There's an ayah in this surah. I'll say that again. Whenever Allah and His Messenger give an instruction, it's not up to a believer to have any choice. Yeah? And then Allah gave Zayd instruction. The Prophet gave Zayd instruction, sorry. What did he say? Hold on to your wife. Logically, you would assume then that Zayd has no choice. He's got to stay in the marriage. In the same ayah you find, and when Zayd was done divorcing her, like, huh? Wait. The Prophet told him, don't get divorced. And the next thing you know, what happens? He gets divorced. How can the Prophet tell him to do something and he went and did the opposite? You know what that proves? That was not a command in Islam. That was a recommendation as a family member. That was a recommendation as someone who loves and cares. That was elderly advice, but it wasn't a religious instruction. That wasn't a religious instruction. So when he told him to hold on to his wife, he was just giving general advice, but he wasn't giving him a religious mandate. And Zayd understands the difference between when the Prophet ﷺ is commanding something as the Prophet of Allah and when he's telling him to do something as someone who loves and cares for him. And so when he disobeys that instruction, it's not a disobedience of Allah and His Messenger. It's not. So he goes ahead and gets divorced. I can't think. अस्सलाम वालेकुम, आपकी आवाज़ आ रही है तो मुझे अपनी आवाज़ नहीं आ रही. अस्सलाम वालेकुम. Sorry जी. What was I saying? Something about Islam. Oh yeah, okay. This is a big point of contention in the surah. We're going to see. The Prophet ﷺ's concern is going to be brought up. Was his concern valid, by the way? What do you think? What people are going to talk? Is that a valid concern? Yeah, pretty valid. One day she's married to his son, and then a few weeks later she's married to him. Right? This just looks odd. It's disturbing, people would say. People are going to make all kinds of and you know, they're the best kinds of people. You know, back in the I can't say for sure if they were Pakistanis back then, but they were Pakistani-like people. They're like, you know, I don't have a problem with it, but some people are saying it's really disturbing. There's some people that just, some people are saying like there's no way to justify that, and I don't even know what to say to those people. Who are these some people? Can I meet them? No, I'll ask some people if they know some people. You don't want to make it sound like you're saying it, but there's always someone called some people, right? And you just throw this on some people and spread and spread and spread. And now even Muslims that are like, they love their messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They have honor for him. They look up to him in every way. Innaka la'ala khuluqin azim. You have the highest character of all. And when he married his daughter-in-law? What? Is that what he did? Why did he do that? Well, you know, and the surah hasn't been revealed yet. The surah hasn't come and said, I made you do it. Because the surah is going to say that. But Allah put the Prophet ﷺ in that position without even giving him that surah first. He told him that you're going to marry her. And he goes and he does it. And people are already starting to talk. And this rumor is spreading and all this stuff. And I want you to understand the intensity of the problem. Islam comes along and says, Islam is basically the higher moral ground. The Prophet ﷺ is the height of the morality and character. And Islam is speaking out against indecency and lewdness. Islam is the alternative to these other lifestyles. And the ultimate example of that is the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And now there's a marriage scandal against who? The Prophet ﷺ. And on top of that, let's make this even spicier, the Prophet ﷺ had 4 wives. He had, at the time, 4 wives. Zainab became his 5th. I'll say that again. He had 4 wives, Zainab became his 5th, radiyallahu anha. The Quran has already been revealed that you can marry up to how many? 4 wives. That's what's been revealed. And now he just married his 5th. Oh, so he's got a different standard for himself? Oh, we all get to have up to 4. By the way, there are reports about that ayah in Surah An-Nisa that some Sahaba had more than 4 wives, and the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever you can let go of that are more than 4, you need to let go. You need to end those marriages because you cannot have more than 4 wives. And Sahaba engaged in divorces of those that were more than 4. The Prophet ﷺ didn't have that problem because how many did he have? 4. Now he has a 5th. Now he has a 5th. And so now people are saying, first of all, his daughter-in-law? Second of all, number 5?